If you're a brand dealing with unauthorized sellers, the way Amazon is responding to brand enforcement is changing behind the scenes. Keep watching because this shift is going to affect how brands protect themselves going forward. I'm Mario Simonian, founder of Esco. And before becoming an attorney, I built and sold two seven-figure Amazon brands. So Amazon has been quietly making changes over the last 3 to 5 years. If you're able to connect the dots and zoom out and take a look at what their intention may actually be, I believe it's protecting brands over resellers. What do I mean by that? Several years ago, they prohibited drop shipping. And they were very, very strong with the enforcement of removing drop shippers. We saw that on Amazon and then soon followed on Walmart. Fast forward to, let's say, 2 years ago, Amazon created their inauthentic policy violations, right? Where Amazon would go after resellers and ask them for the full supply chain, knowing very well that no reseller is able to provide them with a full supply chain. And what we saw with that is a lot of resellers being removed from the marketplace, or at least not being able to provide invoices, thereby not being allowed to sell certain products. Fast forward from that to a few months ago, we saw three major policy changes or changes within Amazon that affected resellers a lot more than established brands. Those were the 3.5% surcharge that Amazon started adding on all FBA fulfillment fees for fuel and logistics. Now, to resellers, a 3.5% increase in fees may be a large amount because resellers are operating with slimmer margins. But for established brands, 3.5% will really not affect them or impact them that much. Amazon, around the same time, implemented their policy eliminating any credit card usage for Amazon ads. And same analysis here for resellers who were advertising and placing all the expenses on credit cards. That was a huge loss in the 2 to 4% points that they would receive. But for established brands, number one, they were maybe not even using credit cards. But number two, the 2 to 4% that they're no longer able to absorb is probably not as impactful on them. Third, the payout delay. Amazon announced that it will now pay out the funds 7 days after actual delivery date. And again, this will squeeze cash flow, and brands are going to be less affected and impacted by this than resellers. So again, if you're looking at each of these policies, you'll say, of course, it affects brands and resellers. But if you're able to actually connect the dots, I think what you'll be able to find is that Amazon is intentionally trying to remove resellers. Now, do I believe that Amazon's intention is to remove all resellers? No, but Amazon is trying to establish itself, the marketplace, as a place more for brands than actual resellers and wholesalers. So, what does this mean for actual brands? Actual brands that may have hated selling on Amazon because of unauthorized resellers and not being able to control the marketplace and control their product category. What this means for them is that now they've got additional leverage because Amazon is sort of winking at them and saying, hey, I can't say this publicly, but I am on your side. We've seen this in practice with one of our clients. They left Amazon about a year ago. And before leaving, they were doing about 1.5 million annually on Amazon. The reason they left is because they couldn't control who was on their listings. So they would get into pricing wars, they would be losing market share. They just had no control over who was selling their products on their listings, on their ASINs. 2 months ago, I talked to them and say, look, things have changed. That was 2 months ago. We've now removed about 90% of their unauthorized resellers. So now they could absorb that entire $1.5 million revenue, which really belongs to them. It's their brand. So that's what we do with our brand enforcement. We're not just looking at intellectual property, whether someone is violating or infringing their intellectual property. We're also looking at, is this unauthorized seller maybe violating marketplace policies in addition to our client's IP? And the third one, is this unauthorized seller or infringer, this violator, are they infringing or violating any of the regulatory compliance rules. In an earlier video, we talked about FTC and what new rules they're coming up with or actually enforcing nowadays. So if you put these three pillars of enforcement together, it makes for a very, very strong brand enforcement platform. If your brand has unauthorized sellers, copycats, or infringers, and you're wondering how much of that market share, that revenue your brand can absorb on Amazon or Walmart, click the link below for a free brand enforcement audit, and we'll tell you exactly how much revenue we could potentially help your brand absorb.